You sit down after a long day. The to-do list is done. There's nothing urgent left to handle. And within minutes, your chest tightens. You check your phone. You think about the email you haven't sent yet. You stand up and start cleaning something that doesn't need cleaning, because sitting still feels wrong. Like you're forgetting something, like you're wasting time, like you're being lazy, even though you're exhausted. And the strangest part? You can't remember when rest started feeling like a crime you're committing against yourself. This isn't about being busy. It's about what happens when your worth was quietly tied to being useful, and rest became the thing that threatens it. Let me be clear about something first. If you feel guilty when you rest, you are not broken. You are not lazy. You are not failing at self-care. Your brain is doing exactly what it was trained to do. Somewhere along the way, you learned that your value lives in what you produce, not in who you are. And now, rest doesn't feel like relief. It feels like evidence that you're not enough. That guilt isn't a personality flaw. It's an alarm system that was installed early, and it's still running. So let's talk about why this happens. Not to fix you, but to help you understand what your mind has been protecting you from all along. The first reason is simpler than it sounds, but it runs deep. When you were younger, love might have come with conditions you didn't notice at the time. Not harsh ones, not obvious neglect, just subtle signals that you were valued most when you were helpful, when you got good grades, stayed quiet, didn't cause problems, made things easier for the adults around you. And without anyone saying it out loud, you learned that your worth was earned, not given. So rest became risky, because if you weren't producing something, proving something, managing something, what were you worth? This is what psychologists call conditional regard. And it doesn't require bad parenting. It just requires a child who's paying attention. You might have had a parent who was overwhelmed, stressed, or emotionally unavailable, and you became the easy one, the helpful one, the one who didn't add to the chaos. That became your identity, and resting meant losing it. Think about the friend who can't sit through a movie without folding laundry, or the person who takes a vacation and spends the whole time planning the next thing. That's not restlessness. That's a nervous system that learned rest equals risk. And here's the reframe. That vigilance once kept you safe. It kept you connected. It kept you loved. Your brain isn't punishing you. It's protecting a version of you that once needed to earn belonging. The guilt you feel now is just the echo of that old protection. The second layer is about nervous system regulation. When you're always doing something, your body stays in a low-level state of activation. Not panic, not crisis, just enough cortisol and adrenaline to keep you moving. And over time, that becomes your baseline. Your body starts to interpret busyness as safety because it's predictable, it's familiar, it's the state you know how to manage. But rest asks your nervous system to downshift. And for someone who's been running on productivity for years, that downshift feels like free fall. The moment you stop, your body doesn't know what to do. So it sends you a signal. Something's wrong. Get up. Do something. You're forgetting something. That's not intuition. That's your nervous system misreading stillness as danger. You see this in people who can't sleep without the TV on, or who need to stay busy on weekends because the quiet feels unbearable. It's not that they love work. It's that their body has forgotten how to feel safe without it. And here's what makes it harder. The modern world rewards this. Productivity culture celebrates the grind. Social media glorifies the side hustle. Rest is rebranded as self-care, which somehow becomes another thing you have to optimize and perform. So even when you try to rest, it turns into a task, and the guilt just shifts. But here's the part nobody tells you. The guilt isn't about the rest itself. It's about what rest reveals. When you stop moving, you're left with yourself, your thoughts, your feelings, the things you've been outrunning. And if you were raised to believe that your emotions were inconvenient or your needs were too much, then sitting with yourself feels like sitting with evidence of your inadequacy. So you keep moving, because motion is easier than presence. The third reason is tied to identity. For a lot of people, being productive isn't just something they do, it's who they are. The reliable one, the hard worker, the person who gets things done. And that identity was built carefully over years because it worked,
It got you praise. It got you respect. It got you a sense of control in a world that often felt unpredictable. But identities like that are fragile because they're based on output, not being. And rest threatens them. If you're not doing something, who are you? If you're not useful, do you still matter? Those questions are terrifying. So your brain does what it knows how to do. It creates guilt. It sends you back to work because work is where you know yourself. Rest is where you disappear. This is why high achievers often struggle the most with rest. It's not that they love their work more than other people. It's that their work has become the scaffolding that holds their sense of self together, and rest feels like dismantling it. You see this in people who retire and fall apart, or in students who graduate and lose their direction. The structure is gone, and suddenly they don't know who they are without it. That's not weakness. That's what happens when your identity was built on doing, not being. The fourth layer is about overstimulation and the illusion of control. When your mind is full and your schedule is packed, there's no space for uncertainty. You know what's next. You know what's expected. You know how to measure whether you're succeeding. But rest creates space, and space creates room for doubt, for questions, for the uncomfortable realization that you might not have as much control as you thought. So guilt becomes a way to pull you back into the illusion. If you feel bad about resting, you'll get back to work, and work gives you tasks. Tasks give you structure. Structure gives you the feeling that you're managing your life, even if you're just managing your exhaustion. And this is true for people who grew up in unpredictable environments, chaos at home, financial instability, emotional volatility. When you can't control your surroundings, you learn to control yourself. You become hyper-responsible, hyper-productive, because if you can just do enough, maybe you can keep everything from falling apart. And that pattern doesn't leave you just because your circumstances improve. It stays, and it turns rest into a threat. Because rest means letting go, and letting go feels like losing control. And this is where it gets interesting. The guilt you feel isn't punishment, it's protection. Your brain is trying to keep you safe from the vulnerability of not knowing, from the discomfort of uncertainty, from the fear that if you stop, everything you've been holding together will collapse. But here's the shift that happens as you age. The same behavior that once felt like survival starts to feel like a cage. When you're younger, being productive feels like power, like proof. But as you get older, you start to notice the cost. The relationships you didn't fully show up for because you were always half-focused on the next thing. The moments you missed because you were too busy managing everything else. The exhaustion that never fully lifts because you never fully rest. And the guilt doesn't go away, but it changes. It becomes quieter, more familiar, less sharp. You start to recognize it for what it is, not truth, just a reflex, an old alarm your nervous system keeps telling because it doesn't know how to tell a different one yet. The fifth reason is the deepest one. Rest requires trust. Trust that you'll be okay even if you're not producing. Trust that your worth isn't conditional. Trust that the world won't fall apart if you stop holding it together for a few hours. And if you didn't grow up with that trust, if you learned early that safety was something you had to earn, then rest feels like betrayal, like you're abandoning the part of you that kept you safe all this time. That's why rest isn't just physical, it's emotional, it's existential. It's asking you to believe something your lived experience taught you wasn't true, that you matter even when you're still, that you're enough even when you're not doing anything, that your presence, not your productivity, is what makes you valuable. And your brain resists that, because believing it means letting go of the strategy that got you this far. It means trusting something you've never fully trusted before, yourself. Not the useful version, not the productive version, just you. Tired, human, resting. That's what the guilt is guarding. Not laziness, not failure, but the terrifying possibility that you were always enough and you just didn't know it. If you feel guilty when you rest, it doesn't mean something is wrong with you. It means you learned to survive in a world that made you earn your worth, and your brain is still running that program, still protecting you from the vulnerability of being, not doing. still trying to keep you safe the only way it knows how. You don't need to fix this, you just need to see it, to notice the guilt when it comes, to recognize it as an old alarm, not a current truth, to understand that rest isn't laziness, it's trust, and trust takes time to build, especially when you were taught that safety lives in motion, not stillness. You're not broken, you're human, and being human means carrying the patterns that once protected you, even when they no longer serve you. The guilt will soften, not because you beat it, but because you stopped believing it was telling you the truth.